Hi, this is Andy. Welcome to my channel. This piece will be transformed as a part of the Ugly Duckling Challenge September edition. This challenge is hosted by Cory over at Desert DIY. I'll leave a link to her channel in the description, as well as a link to the playlist where great YouTubers will be doing wonders with their pieces. As you can see, this piece is very rough. The back panel is full of mold and it has some holes, so I'll have to get rid of it. One leg is missing, so I'll have to make a new one. Everything will be supervised by Milo, of course. Come with me to see what I can do with this piece. I bought this piece for $25 on Facebook Marketplace. Apart from being filthy, this piece is covered in grease or fat. Obviously, it was kept in someone's kitchen or pantry and a big chunk of fat melted over it. One of the handles is missing and the doors can hardly move. The positive thing of this piece is that it is solid wood. I'll start disassembling the doors. They were quite stuck. What a surprise! This must have been a record or an old radio unit. Those planks seem not to belong here. I'll get rid of those rails. Now it is time to start cleaning this piece. Everything is covered in grease, so I'll spray some kitchen degreaser and I'll clean everything with soapy water. Here I am using my phone's lantern to see well inside. So dirty and full of dents. Milo, why are you so sweet? I can't touch you now. My hands are wet. These doors are gross. I'll remove some of the grease with a spatula. This top is absolutely filthy. This seriously looks as pork fat. The bottom part is full of dirt. I'll remove the nails from the rails and try to get as much of the grease off the surface as possible. The back panel must go. I started trying to remove the base of one of the feet to use it as a mold. However, to my surprise, it was only glued in place. The legs had these metal feet. I'll remove them. The part of the record or radio must go, so I'll cut it with my jigsaw. Now it is time to make the missing leg. Of course, it would be faster with a miter saw. One day I'll get one. I want to thank everyone who has helped my channel through the Buy Me a Coffee app. Every coffee will go to buying the best respirator I can get. I usually wear just masks. The process of making the leg was quite straightforward. Then I sanded the base and the legs starting with 40 grit. Having a clean base is important, especially when a customer wants to take it home. It must look clean. If you have reached this far, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Every like tells the YouTube algorithm that this content is worth showing. In the description below, you will find more ways in which to support my channel. And then it was time to sand for hours. However, the top still has fat stuck in there.
That's good.
Look at how the sandpaper ended. Sanding will have to wait. I'll scrape it with a sharp knife. Is there no end to this fat? I saw on internet a trick and I applied oven cleaner and wrapped it in plastic to stop from drying. I let it sit for 1 hour. One hour later, the grease had melted and I could remove it with a kitchen sponge. Fat had turned into oil. While that dried, I started removing some edge banding. I realized that the heat gun made more fat to come out, so I continued removing it with a putty knife. When I couldn't get any more fat, I continued removing the edge banding. Then, endless sanding. I used some wood filler to conceal some holes left behind by the wrecker plank. I plan to stain the interior. However, the bottom part will have to be painted. It is too damaged. I used some strong putty, aka Bondo, to fill some big gouges. And then more sanding.
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you.
Before painting, I gave the top a good coat of shellac to seal any oil still trapped in the fibers. While that dried, I focused on the doors. I will add hinges and make them open, so any hole will be covered in Bondo. Then, you guessed it, more sanding. I bought this piece of hardboard at a local hardware store and cut it to size using my jigsaw.
Fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. We can do nothing.
After cleaning, it was finally time to tape and paint.
So what if you're stupid and you know it's nothing wrong?
I used chalk paint in black and added a bit of water to make it easier to roll it.
You and me just know how it feels when we're falling in love. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now.
I started painting the corners with a brush.
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now.
Then I used a microfiber roller to cover all the surfaces. I also painted the hardboard. That night, I painted the legs and sealed them using my favorite water-based polyurethane in satin finished. I started staining. I used dark walnut, which has become my favorite color. As usual, I applied it with a foam brush and wiped the excess with some paper towel. Here you see me taping because I want to have a frame of black in the inside of the piece. It was time to drill the holes for the hinges. And of course, I had to trim the doors because they are now too big for the space. Time to install the back panel. The doors will have this tribal batik pattern. My inspo was this buffet. I love this design. Now I realized that I won't be able to fully finish the piece. I got some bleed through that I need to cover with shellac, and there are some details that will take me a couple of days. But I will finish on time for the challenge, even if I upload it late. I will be there. I will address those details next week. I gave the outside a couple of coats of poly. This happens for being impatient. I messed up the stencil. I decided to create a black frame to conceal this mistake. I sealed the interior using beeswax. My pup is so cute that sometimes it is hard to work when he wants attention. It was time to paint the back of the doors. Some extra reinforcement. If you have seen my videos before, you know that I always do something with the backs. I think it is professional. I won't be able to seal the back before the challenge, but I'll give it a couple of coats of poly. However, I will give a coat of top coat to the front of the doors. And after installing the doors and the new hardware, it is time to stage the piece. Do you remember this gross piece? And here it is now. I can't believe the transformation. This went from gross to elegant. I love the batik design and the black. Don't forget to check the playlist with all those talented flippers that accepted this challenge. And thanks Cory for hosting this great event. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.